Gab Marcotti with me. Gab, he was the greatest player of his generation, but he's untested at this level as a manager. What's your feeling about Zidane and his potential to run a club like Madrid?
Well, there's a couple of interesting things about this, Adrian. First of all, Zinedine Zidane had said for a long time that he didn't have much interest in coaching. In 2009, of course, he was appointed as a special advisor to Florentino Perez. Later, he became sporting director of Real Madrid when Mourinho was there in the last 2 years of Mourinho's tenure, although I think that was largely a ceremonial position. Then he got to sit on the bench next to Ancelotti in the year they won La Decima, and then he decided he wanted to coach, and he took over Castilla. He's been a Castilla manager for 18 months. Castilla are Real Madrid's B team. They play in the Spanish third tier. I don't think you can judge those results because there it's more about development than results. But my main concern with Zinedine Zidane is simply his personality. The Real Madrid job is all about communication. It's not a coincidence that the last two Real Madrid managers who won silverware, Mourinho and Ancelotti, are above all great communicators, both in communicating to the players and communicating to the media. Zinedine Zidane is nothing like that. He's often aloof, he's often distant, he's introverted, he said so himself. Now, he may have had a gigantic personality transplant in the last year and a half, I don't know. But that would be the single biggest concern to me. He makes Rafa Benitez, seem like a politician, when it comes to glad-handing people. And I think that ought to be a concern.
Yeah, not a great talker, a known introvert, Zinedine Zidane. He had a bit of a temper as a player.
Why did you put Benitez back in then? Gab just described Benitez. Look, what's the credentials here? Perez has said to him, you take the job. The bottom line here is it's a hasty decision. Somebody has to take over in the meantime. There was even reports of Mourinho arriving in Spain today, as there usually would be with the conspiracies. There seems to be a bit of a fad at the moment with great players who seem to think they can catapult in. Ryan Giggs at United are all saying he's the next United manager. Gary Neville takes over at Valencia and saying he's the next United and England manager. Zinedine Zidane comes in here. The bottom line is good coaches are there for a reason, like Ancelotti.
It's all well and good having such a fantastic name as a player, but it's a different era when you walk onto that training ground and all the eyes are looking at you. Say, okay, Gaffer, what have you got to offer?
Who are you dropping?
Well, exactly. It looks as though he's going to have to get somebody alongside him who can do this communication, because being a manager at the top level nowadays is all about communication. It's all about why I'm not playing you, yes I'm playing you, and so on and so forth. So when those training sessions come rolling around, it's so important that the boys know that this guy is what
it's great when you're Zidane and you're a great player and you're big mates to everybody and somebody else is taking the heat. But is he going to play Isco? Is he going to play Bale? Is he going to play Ronaldo where Ronaldo wants to play? Is he going to play James Rodriguez? Because I tell you what, if he doesn't do what these players want, he'll be public enemy #1 as soon as you can see it, and that's the way management is.
Sid, he may not be a great talker. I'm not sure if you share those concerns that Gab had a little earlier. We're hearing he's bringing in Santi Solari, our colleague here, as his assistant coach. What can you tell us about that?
That he's not. That what we were told this evening was that Solari isn't his assistant coach. The president actually, who didn't talk during the press conference, didn't allow questions. But there was one of these kind of informal little chats afterwards, and one of the things he pointed out then was that he didn't understand. He said where the Solari story had come from, and that Zidane will be working with the same team he was working with Castilla. I think the concerns about Zidane's communication skills are natural. I think one of the things that is true is that while Zidane is quiet, there's certainly a certain degree of authority and status about him at Real Madrid, which at least initially I think will help. Whether or not he'll be able to then follow that through, I must admit I do share those doubts. One of the other things I thought was really interesting that Gab mentioned that he had that role that was largely ceremonial, and I think this is a key thing with Zidane. I think we sometimes forget how competitive he was as a player. And I had a conversation with him, probably about 3 years ago, in which basically he pointed out that he didn't want a ceremonial role. He wanted to do something genuine and real, which is why he went back to do his coaching badges, because he wanted something that felt actually worthwhile. And I think that he started by doing that over the last 18 months, started to overcome some of those barriers, but obviously not all of them yet.